Good afternoon, everyone. It's Graham Coath. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, which means that it's nearly, but not quite, beer o'clock for us all for this week. But that means there's still time to talk to yet another band. And we've just been looking, if you're on listening to this on the Spotify, you won't be able to see this. But I've got a picture up of me with the band on the screen at the moment in a kind of lovely montage, and we're looking in different directions. So we've got Rennie looking kind of down at the floor, and Cindy and I are looking at, we don't know, maybe it's the stars, maybe it's the moon, I don't know, something like that. But here we are. I'm here with Rennie and Cindy from Para Lia. Talk to us first of all. Hi, good afternoon, by the way, folks, and thanks for joining me. You're coming live from your kind of music room in the house is it Berlin? Is it Berlin that you're in?
It's 100 kilometers from Berlin to the south.
Oh, right. Okay. What's the actual, without getting stalked, and letting too many people know, what kind of area is it? Whereabouts is it?
Actually, we are in Cottbus, in the town of Cottbus. It's a town 100 kilometers from Berlin, and it has 100,000 inhabitants. Not such a small town, but
yeah,
it's the wider Berlin, which is just 1 hour with the car, and you're in Berlin.
Oh, absolutely lovely. Are there any traditions from that town, or anything in particular from that town? It's like I'm in Chard, in the southwest of England, and it's known as the birthplace of powered flight. So this is where powered flight was. Are there any inventions or any traditions that come out of that particular town that you know of? That's putting you on the spot, isn't it?
Cottbus had a famous guy who was searching did research in Australia. Ludwig Leichhardt, who's a very famous person of the 19th century, and he did several expeditions to Australia, and he vanished in Australia, and he was never found where he is. And it's a big legend, and a lot of expeditions were there. It's kind of like people who were lost on the Arctic or something like this. So this is.
Yeah.
And Cottbus was well known for a football team, but were not so successful in the moment.
Well, do you know what? I'm glad I asked, because that really is something that actually would make a great story for a song, wouldn't it? A man that goes off exploring somewhere and then disappears magically.
Had a band in Cottbus some years ago. They called themselves Manteca Drums, and what we did was to play didgeridoo, and it was a really cool experience to have 3, 4, 5 guys, one with the drum, and the other ones with didgeridoos, and with the idea of Ludwig Leichhardt, of course, there was a connection to this, and we were very successful. So necessary that we tried to catch up the theme. Our ones did it in a much better way when we could do guitars.
Well, thank you. Now we're primarily here to talk about your album, Gone with the Flow.
Yeah.
Which is a tremendous piece of work, and we'll get into that in a minute. But talk about the name of the band in the first place, because this has got a Greek influence. What made you choose the name for the band?
Okay. Well, it was just because we are very lazy, and we love.
I love that.
And we started to do something, and we had the idea this becomes a kind of a serious musical project, and we have to use a name, and to hold it short and not to discuss evening for a name. We were on the Greek beach, and the Greek word for beach is Para Lia. And we said, oh, it's a beautiful name, it's a beautiful place. What do you think, Cindy? Cindy says, yeah, I agree with Renee. And from that moment, we had the band name.
Well, no, that's great. I mean, that's where names should come out of. You shouldn't be arguing about a name for, I mean, I think you can overthink a name, and that's absolutely brilliant. You just came out with it there. So you have a real love for Greece, then?
Yeah, we have a big love for Greece, yeah. And where's the story? Because I was really aware to discuss the band name, because my first band I started when I was 18, 19 years old with some guys, and we really, with a beer in hand, discussed evening for evening how could we name our band, and we finally choose the name The Shuttlecocks.
The
The Shuttlecocks,
shuttlecocks.
because our lyrics fly like shuttlecocks over the world, we thought. But in fact, it's the most silly band name in history, because we are in Germany, we were in Germany, we played gigs in Germany, and we were announced by the people of clubs and in the newspapers, something like this, and they wrote the name in a very wrong way, and some we did not know what is a shuttlecock, and we figured space shuttle, okay, shuttle, it's kind of a spaceship and like this. And if you have the word cock, you always can have a mistake in the translation. And
Yeah,
also this,
sure.
yes. So it was not such a good decision, but a funny way. And we are with Paralia very, very happy.
Yeah. Well, and also maybe in certain places people may have thought that you may be in a reinformation or a reinterpretation of the Buzzcocks, of course. You know, the other famous
Yeah.
band with that title in it. So you know, but no, that would be in itself no bad thing. The Buzzcocks were obviously a tremendous band. Before we came on air, I did ask people on Twitter whether anyone had any questions to ask you, and actually, your promoter, Shauna, did come up with a question to ask you. So this is atypical for me. I don't normally ask other people's questions, but I will on this occasion reach out and ask one. So this was what she came up with. It's scrolling along the bottom of the screen now, as you see, but she was really interested to know. Given where your music comes from and your heritage as well, have you been, have your music been influenced by the sort of transition from living in the East German Republic to a united Germany? How's that influenced your music?
I cannot talk a lot about this because I was 10 when it changed the system. So I'm not very, I was very young. So I'm
Yeah.
not.
Well, the shops got better then. Maybe.
Well, I was in the best age for a change like this, because I was 18, and this is the perfect age to because everything was changing. Everyone felt like to breathe after a long winter. It was it's hardly to describe, because it's a very interesting experience. Several years after 1989, there was a time which was described later as a kind of a wild east, kind of like the Wild West, if you think in the USA in the 19th century. Everything was unsure, everything was swimming. Before, in the German Democratic Republic, the people's life, the biographies, where if you were young, it was clear that you will marry at a young age, then you will work for 40 years, and when you get retired, maybe you have a garden and that's it, and you fell down. And now no one knew what will bring the next day, what will bring the next week, where do we go, where do this country go? It was the time before the reunion of both Germanies, when
Yeah.
it was discussed, reunion yes or reunion no. When everyone wanted to catch up everything and all things where we miss the older ones who lived for years or decades in the German Democratic Republic. We wanted to buy this ones. We wanted to go into the better shops, as you said. We want to drive a good car, not to wait for decades of a car, because you could not go there and buy a new car in the German Democratic Republic. You had to wait on the list for 10, 12, 13, 15 years to get a car, something like this. And the people were crazy about this, and we took the new freedom and we grabbed it with both hands. On the other side, you had, and this is comes my story. Cindy and me, we grew up in a very small town, and the town that most of the people uh, were working for the big railway. There was a big railway station and a lot of trains, and people had work there. And after the change came, week by week and month by month, a lot of people lost their jobs, and
Mm.
all lost the culture after the time because the people had to went away to find new jobs. The young people went out of the town. The older ones, my father was a locomotive driver, for instance. He was retired with, he was around 59 or something like this, a very young age, and he was at home, and suddenly his world broke down. He was useless. He felt useless, and a lot of people did. So there was a bright side and a very dark side. And of course, if you were in a higher age, it was much more difficult than for a youngster like me. And I was in that time, I began to study in the Coath University, and I was so lucky to meet other guys in my age who also, like me, loved music. And that
Mm.
time we listened to the Pixies, we listened to Husker Du, bands like this, indie rock bands there. And we had a connection. And another guy, also like me, knew how to play three chords on the guitar. There was another one who liked music and never played an instrument. And we said, "Ah, okay, you're the bass player. Bass player, do not you got yourself a bass, and we will teach you." So we were free. And when we were looking for a drummer, found a drummer, and when we formed the band. And for me, the time of the political change there also is the time when I start to make music. And this is a very
Yeah.
special time for me, where I started with another guys, and we catched a collected experience in the rehearsal room and later on the stage. And we learned how to make music, how to arrange songs. I wrote my first songs there, wrote my first lyrics, played a rhythm guitar on the band and something like this, and it grew. So it's a very important time for me because I have my musical roots there.
That story, I think we've probably heard that story from lots of bands over the years in terms of how they got together. It actually sounded very much sort of like how U2 got together, for example. If you've ever read the story of how U2 got together in a school, etc., and sort of where you can play three notes, let's get together, etc. It was that, and U2, obviously a band that came over to Berlin in order to record famously. And I don't know whether you realized you did it there, but you actually referenced to David Bowie songs, but in what you said, without even knowing that you probably did it. You talked about Where Are We Now, and you talked about The Next Day. So in terms of that lineage of English musicians coming over to Berlin, how much of an influence was that on you as well?
After the political change or before the political change?
Just in general, really. That long history of musicians from England coming over to Berlin to be in a place of creativity, both before the change and afterwards.
Yes, his famous album. He is a favorite song of both of us. Heroes is one of our favorite pieces of music, and we love it very much. But this was in the late 70s, and we both, even I was too young to
Yeah.
to be part of this. But in later times, in the end of the 80s, it was beside of the recording thing like Bowie did in Western Berlin. It was a kind of a strategy of the political class in East Germany to hold the youth down, to get something for the youth, to prevent a political change, and to give some feed, like the Romans did with the circles, like bread and games. We tried to get international music stars to play concerts in East Berlin, and so we had in the end of the 80s bands like I think Joe Cocker was there, Bruce Springsteen, yes, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Bob Dylan was there, and even bands who were famous in the 80s like Big Country. I don't know if you remember them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so and this was the time I also went to my first concerts. If I was so lucky to get a ticket for this, and yes, so it was a time of, it was not a kind of an opening to the Western side of the world, but just strategic thinking to give something to youth to prevent them to uh, to fight. Yes,
Yeah.
and in the end we were not successful because the wall crashed down then. Then it was for us totally cool, of course, to go to the West Berlin clubs to see the indie rock bands like Dinosaur Jr., like Buffalo Tom, like Lenny Kravitz, and something like this. And it was so cool. As I said, Cottbus is 1 hour from Berlin, and it's a short way to go there. And
Yeah.
we matched up everything we only knew from the radio before.
Yeah. Now, I also said that I would ask you this, which is your sound, sir, in terms of the guitar. That's an amazing sound that you've got. How long did that take you to perfect?
Oh, it took me years to go to that point. Because, yes, indeed. You know, when I played in a band or on several bands, and I did it for some years, I mostly played the rhythm guitar and wrote the songs. And then some years ago, I decided to do the stuff by myself, and I was forced to get a concept for everything. How should it sound? And slowly developed the concept that I have rhythm guitars and a crunch tone, and I was searching for a really cool lead guitar tone. And one of the guitarists I love in very much ways is because he's not a perfect one, and he is with a lot of passion. You can hear it in his guitar playing. This is Neil Young. If he plays with Crazy Horse,
Oh yeah.
Not the acoustic things and not the harvesting. If he plays with the Crazy Horse, the live rust, for instance, the hey, hey, my thing, something like this, and like a hurricane. And I always loved that lead and the melodic lead. And I love the connection and the interplay between the edges and between the melody, the harmonic things. And I tried to get it together. And so I developed slowly my lead guitar sound and put it on the crunch guitars and tried how it works. And it took a little while till I had it. From a technical point of view, it's just I have an amp from Line 6. This is a company who buys amps like this.
Yeah.
And my guitar is a
Can we be geeky? Can we ask you what you? Yeah.
This is the sound I do. This is my lead guitar. It's a Korean brand.
Yep.
Made by a guy, an American guy named Greg Bennett, and he chose the material for this guitar. And the special thing on it is that it's an electric guitar, kind of a Stratocaster guitar, but it has a solid body. And this is the reason, because it has a very nice sustain. So you can play a tone on an electric guitar, and the tone flies very away, and you have a very warm sound. And this makes the special lead sound of Paralia.
There you go. And let's get even geekier. What sort of pedals do you use, sir?
What pedals I did use in my life? You can fill a whole room.
There you go.
In the band, I did so because every guitarist wants to have a pedal for this and then a pedal for that. Oh, I saw this one. Of course, it's.
Do you have arguments about him buying pedals? By the way, do you say, look, that's probably enough, isn't it? You know.
Now I just don't need those pedals, because I have found my sounds for the different guitars I have.
Yep.
For the rhythm guitars, for the crunch guitars, sometimes I use a fuzz box like Jimi Hendrix used, or if you hear on the psychedelic music of the late 60s, something like this.
Yep.
And, but mostly I use 3, 4 ways to play the guitar, to let the guitar sound like. And I do not use a lot of external pedals. Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's a tremendous sound, and voice-wise, your voices complement each other very well. Cindy, when did you come into this? When did you get coerced into this music?
I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3. I don't know. He asked me 3 years. 3 years ago, he said, "Come on, Cindy, can you sing some things for me? Here's a microphone. Just sing this and this. Make woo." And I did, and that's it. And that's how it works.
Yeah, brilliant. What was it in your head? Was there an intention to get a female vocalist in there as well? You know, were there any particular bands that you had listened to in the past, or you were influenced by, that you thought, I just want to get that kind of combination of the female and the male vocal in there?
I learned from Renee, Kim Deal, and the Pixies.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, what a great band. Full stop. The Pixies. What other influences have there been on Paralia in terms of music? You've mentioned a few already, but obviously I can hear some others in there. I can even hear things like The Cure, things like that. I mean, is there any particular strain of band that really kind of influenced you, or influenced you in attitude, if nothing else?
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe you have some idea? No.
Well, when I read reviews on our album, also the album before, I read about it. People are reminded by The Cure, or they think of New Order, for instance.
Mm.
It's something like this, an Echo and the Bunnymen, and this is interesting to hear for us.
All
Well,
right.
yeah.
In your head, it doesn't sound like that at all.
We of course know, and this is because, as I said, my musical roots are in the beginning of the 19th, and this is the sound I want to have. Do not go with the fashion, not with the sound of the drum set, not with the sound of the guitar. I do not want to sound like everyone who listens to the music knows it's recorded just recently. I do not care. I do not give a damn for this. I just want to sound so that for me, say, yeah, this is our style, this is our sound, and this is we do what we want to do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yes,
And God bless everyone that sails in that ship, because that's absolutely right. That's what it should be.
what I did, of course, and when we started with the band 30 years ago, we had the first albums, the first records from Pearl Jam, from Nirvana, from Soundgarden, and we also every time had this in mind. Also, when we wrote own songs or something like this. But this is the period when you find yourself as a musician, find yourself as a songwriter, and this is long ago. And now I'm just, it's a big compliment if someone says, oh, it reminds us on the voice of the singer of New Order. I said, thank you very much. It's a big compliment. And
Yeah, yeah,
also when they compare us with the Pixies and also said, oh, Cindy's parts in some songs sounds like Kim Deal. And so this is very cool. Because everyone, or the most of the reviews we read, were that the people said, oh, you are reminded on this and you're reminded on that, but generally these guys sound like Paralia, and this is the best thing you can say. And so we are very happy with this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very good, very good. Couple of things. One is you've got a song on this album. We'll go back to the title in a minute, but you've got a song on this album called Fade to Grey. I'd just like to point out to anybody looking at the album in terms of its listing of songs, this is not a Midura or Ultravox cover. This is a completely new song with the same title, right? Sorry, not Ultravox, Visage. This is not a Visage song. This is a completely new title. But interesting that you still managed to capture the same title there. Secondly, you've got a song called The Painter, and actually really interesting imagery in the song, sort of looking through almost like the eyes of a painter as well in terms of strokes, etc., which is I found really fascinating. But you have an interest in art as well. Tell me a little bit about your interest in art.
Well, the painter is Louis Renzoni. So the song is dedicated to him, and the lyrics of the song, a lot of the lyrics or stuff in the lyrics are quotes of Louis Renzoni. How he sees his art and how his experience are with the art business. And we met 2.5 years ago on SoundCloud, where we put our music just to get in contact with other musicians and something like this. And Louis found our music there, and he left us a message there and said, "Wow, you paint with the same colors as I use doing my images, my paintings." And I almost fell out of my chair because I heard it. It feels like ghostly, but beautiful, something like this. And we came in contact and had conversations, and the friendship was building. And we discovered his art, of course, not original ones, but on internet you found his paintings, and it's beautiful. It's a little bit dark, melancholic. The same thing you have as an essence in the Paralia music, and there are connections also from our thinking, just independent to be an independent artist, not to do something what other ones do. Just do your own stuff, do your own thing. And so we came in contact, and I had the idea for the song The Painter in my mind, and I did it, and I sent it over to Louis in a rough demo version and said, here you are, because you're a part of it, it's your song, sir, and listen. And he did, said it's great, and found it really, really cool. Also that the song is not a song you hear on a album and say, oh, this is very catchy or something. It's an edgy song. It's not the song you hear from first listen and say, oh, I like it very much. You have to do it better.
Yeah, it's very different from, for example, My Muse at the beginning of the album, which is more of a direct kind of thing. It's
so Louis loved the song, and suddenly I had the idea in mind. Well, if we have a song for you are part of the lyrics and we have a connection here, what do you think about to provide a cover for the song? And from that point, it was the next step. What about an album we do, and you provide the artwork? And from that moment on, I also wrote lyrics. For instance, Fade to Grey, who play with images, with something to play with words on the visual things. And so we had a concept, and the concept started to grow. And the result is the Gun with the Flow album with the artwork from Louis Renzoni and our songs. And we try to mix it and to get the audio thing and the visual thing. There's also an exhibition. We wanted to have a real exhibition in New York and Berlin. Now we have it online. You can find it on pages of Sophisticated Ape, and you can walk around the three-dimensional walk around. You can watch our pictures and listen to the music. See,
we will make sure that people put the links to that around this interview as we go, because I think that's a really important thing. And I just absolutely love when different art forms come together and complement each other and actually feed off of each other, like you've done here. And that's a wonderful thing. Tell me about the title of this album, because Gone with the Flow is quite an interesting title, because you typically in English you'd say go with the flow, but this is Gone with the Flow. So there's obviously something clever about that title. Tell me, what were you saying there?
Even in my age, every 3 or 4 months I have a clever idea. So it was one of the moments. No, I have just the inspiration for this was, as I said, the dark melancholic way Louis paints his paintings is also what we like. For instance, we are big fans of the Art Nouveau furniture, something like this. I have a collection of old books here.
Oh, lovely.
We love this. And one of the most, I think it's the most famous novel of the 19th century, dark novel, is called The Rider on the Dike, or The Rider on the White Horse is another English translation. In German, it's Der Schimmelreiter. Schimmel is the white horse, and it's a guy who is the dike. I think it's an old English word for levee, or I think Led Zeppelin sang about the levee breaks, and the dike is the old word for this, also used in Frisia now.
Correct. Yep.
It's the novel is just a guy who tries to be more clever than nature is with all her strength and power, and he tries to build a dike, and he gets a little bit hubris. He thinks he is much more than nature is. And when the water comes and he loses everything, he loses his child, his wife, and at least he rides into the waves to commit suicide. And the horse is the symbol, because he rides with the white horse on the dike as a ghost in later times. This is the plot of the novel and this dark thing. And it was the time in late 2018 when the climate debate, the discussion was very high on the top, and the water which rises. We know that the water rises now, and there is a big change. And if you see the demonstrations out there, or so, there's a lot of people who have a lot of hate and stop this, but we do not have answers. And the connection there to find answers, do it not with hate, but with love inside. We find this on the lyrics on the song "Children of the Flood," which is the song of the album, and from that song comes the album title "Gone with the Flow." Don't let it all take you away. So take care. And so a lot of things go into the lyrics and into the title.
You're a deep thinker, aren't you, my friend? An absolutely deep thinker. Is he difficult to be around sometimes when he's thinking like this?
No, it's
I don't mean that in a nasty way, but I mean, you know, I can sense already, and I haven't known you for long, but I can sense that you just sometimes your mind goes at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, and which is a great gift. But sometimes that that can be that can have its moments. That can definitely have its moments. So thank you for sharing this afternoon. What's next for Paralia? What are you working on following this? Are you going to do another album?
We have no particular plans to do now because
Homeschooling, sir. I mean, we talked about that when we had like a pre-interview amble yesterday, and your son was speaking to me as well, which was very kind of him. So you've been doing the homeschooling, like many of us have. That's been challenging for you.
the time management, yes.
Yeah.
Because you have to invest more time, like a lot of other people here. You have the job, and you have to do it when. Yes, and sometime when I did just jamming with my guitar and record new ideas, I now do homeschooling, and so it's a little bit less time we have to do things like music now, and but all the lockdown thing, and that you cannot travel somewhere, visit friends somewhere. It's also you can a little bit tired inside just to take a deep breath somewhere. We miss to go to Greece for a week or something like this. It always is it's a big inspiration.
Well, I'm going to say, in terms of an inspiration for you, hopefully at some point, possibly not playing your music or just you chilling and coming on holiday. Hopefully, when this all settles down a bit, it'd be lovely to see you over in the UK. You'd be most welcome. Where I live in the southwest, we have, not too far from where I live, a big white chalk horse. And having heard the story, I think you would absolutely love going to see this big white chalk horse on the side of a sort of mountain. So I feel that, you know, if you do make it this way, do come and see me. We'll go and visit the white horse. I'll introduce you to Somerset cider.
From the battle against the Vikings, slain.
Correct. That's the right. That's absolutely it. Yeah. I mean,
I'm very interested in the early British history and this time, and it's very cool. And also, it was painted in the 18th century. We painted new, and we did the white color new. It's very impressive. It's one of the things I would like to see. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm over there.
Well, we'd love to see you. And what's more, though, you standing astride the white horse at the top of the mountain with your guitar would make an absolutely great picture. So,
you know, Cindy has a white horse. It's called.
His name is Anton.
Anton in Action.
Anton in Action.
okay. Oh, well, so you ride, yeah?
I do, yes.
Yeah, lovely. That's that in itself is very time consuming. Keeping horses and looking after horses is very time consuming, but very, very relaxing at the same time, because you can just get on that horse and forget about everything else. So I'm totally with you there. I absolutely love this album. Thank you very much for sharing it with me, and thank you for letting me listen to it and talk to you again today. If people want to listen to the album, they can obviously listen to it on various streaming services, but we obviously want them to buy the album, because that is a much better investment. Where can people buy gone with the flow.
We can head over to Bandcamp, paralia.bandcamp.com, and we found, of course, a streaming version, and we can have the vinyl, because the idea is that we have a vinyl, and we have a limited edition, vinyl edition, because with the artwork from Louis Renzoni, it's good to have a gatefold.
Oh,
very, very cool.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. That is. Oh, can we see it? Can we see this? Let's get everybody really sort of, you know, that's beautiful. And is it got anything else inside? If you're listening to this on Spotify, sorry, but you can't see this. All right, but that's the choice you make. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
You have also the cover for my muse, and this is Voila. If you, I don't know if the people can see, where's the hand coming?
Yeah.
And show it to, and exactly this is what you hear in the lyrics from my muse. To say, the artist says this is my muse, and my muse does something like this. And it's really cool. And we have a video for the song when Louis Renzoni watched the video and said, "Oh, Cindy gave life to my painting," and it's really cool. And on the inside, of course, we have all the lyrics here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this, why would you not want that? That has to be in your record collection. So do, and people can buy that from Bandcamp as well, can they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So head over to Bandcamp, Paralia on Bandcamp, and buy yourself an absolutely beautiful slice of art, both inside and out. Both of you, Cindy, Rennie, it's been a pleasure meeting you both. We will return at some point in our lives and have another chat. And if, as I say, if you're ever in England, do come and visit me, and I will take you to see the White Horse. And in fact, I may even take you to our local beach, which is called the Jurassic Coast, and we will go and look for fossils, because you'd like that as well, I expect. Yeah, very, very cool. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the week. So thanks for joining me. Bye for now.